Hi, welcome back. Good to see you. So, can you make cheap stylus or styli for a touch probe? I don't know. Let's have a go. So there it is, the touch probe as we made in a previous video. This is the problem with this is that it works fine. It looks to be relatively accurate and repeatable, which is more important. However, the shaft on this stylus is metal, and that means that if you crash the probe into something and you keep going, this metal can transfer a lot of energy into the guts of the probe. So what you want is a probe that when you hit the end, the end of movement, I should say, it then just smashes. Professional probes are like $40 or so each, and I mean, they're superb. They're way better than the sort of thing that I can make, but at $40 per one, I could easily wreck 2 or 3 in an afternoon, being me. So I think I need to come up with a new system, another system that's cheap for me to use on a relatively accurate probe. So it doesn't have to be brilliant, but it has to be better than the average. So let's just take this stylus off and then have a look at what we've got. So this is the anatomy of it. A ferrule at this end with an M4 thread on it, a couple of flats so that you can do it up with a little spanner, a shaft and a ball bearing. That is basically the whole crux of a stylus. My first thoughts were to use this. This is used in the model aircraft industry, I think primarily in the model aircraft industry. It's thin walled brass tube, drawn brass tube. It's quite straight, it's quite strong, and it's relatively cheap. But I discounted this for one very simple reason. If you're using the probe vertically, pushing it into the work like that would result in a lot of force going through the brass tube and into the mechanism inside the probe. So although it's a good idea, I think, yeah, it's probably not the most suitable material. So moving on from that, we have this. This is glass, and let's get it out so we can have a closer look. Get rid of that. This stuff is called silica glass, and you've come across this at school. You use it for, I remember using this stuff at school to make pipettes, where you would heat it over a Bunsen and draw it and draw out a very thin pipette and then wait for it to cool, then snap it off and you end up with 2 pipettes. Really quite good stuff. This is very thin wall, but this strikes me that it's going to be a better option to make the shaft out of than brass. This is 40mm. So out of these 2 pieces, which cost me around, I think, $3 or $4, I can get nearly 10 of these probes. The only other bits that you need, I've got a bag of balls from Buggered Bariums and a bit of shaft, 8mm shaft that comes from an old printer cartridge. If you look at one of my previous videos, you'll see that where I get this stuff from. quick trial fit. Oh, you numpty. I put the flats in the wrong space. The flats should be at the other end. Whilst I'm at it, I've changed to the collet chuck because I need a little bit more accuracy than I got. So what I've got here is a piece of the same material that these ferrules are made from, and I've faced it off, drilled it and tapped it M4 so I can thread the embryo stylus on and just nip it up with a little mini spanner. Okay, all cut off to the same length. I now need to turn the ends of these down to 3.9mm to fit the rod over. Here we go, and the glass tube is a nice fit over the top. I made 15 of these, but I've only cut 10 of them to suit this glass tube. I've left the other 5 as embryos so that I can redo them if required. So let me just show you. I don't know if you can see this very well. Let's move there. There we go, and hopefully it's a bit snug, to say the least, but there we go. That's what we're going to do next. I'm going to use the cutting mat, whoops, to mark these every 40mm. Now the tricky bit, cutting them. A triangular needle file, let's give that a go. Oh yeah, now they say you should just point that away from yourself and snap it. Well, there we go. What do we think about that? Well, there we are, a few minutes later, and I've got 2 little tiny stubs of leftover bit and 10 roughly 40mm long pieces. Fantastic. Next up is this. I have absolutely no idea if this is going to work. I've no idea if these things are going to be strong enough or any of it really. So what I decided that I would do, would you believe this stuff shrinks down to, these are 5.5mm or 6mm or so, and this stuff shrinks down to 4mm. Yeah, I'm a bit sceptical as well. There we go. I'm going to try and shrink that down and see whether or not it works. Look at that. Impressed with that. I found if you put these in a drill, I'll show you that, I'll do it as a drop over shot. You can put these in a drill and run up and down a piece of a sanding belt, and you can cut them, flush them off at either end. So there we go. So let me just assemble that. Here's the problem. The actual heat shrink causes adds too much diameter to the glass, so the ball is actually less of a smaller diameter than the shaft. So that's not too cracky. So I have experimented and I've used some thinner heat shrink. This is better, but it's still not quite right. I suspect the thing to do would probably be to get, this is a 6mm ball, probably get a 7mm ball. I've got some 4 to 6 minute epoxy here. I'm just going to mix it up. Clearly I don't need a lot for this application. I'll try a couple of larger ball bearings I happen to have for those. Right, there we go. 3 with thick heat shrink on, 1 with thin heat shrink, and 2 with no heat shrink, just plain glass. I've got some different diameter balls on the end here just to see if they sort of stay put. It's a few days later and these are all thoroughly dry. I have to say they're not pretty by any stretch, but they are pretty, pussycat again, they are pretty firmly held on and together, and they're stronger than I thought they were going to be. So next step, let's go and break them. Put the vise back on the milling table, put a 30mm block on a parallel in the jaws, and put the original probe that we were fiddling with last time in the touch probe. And I've just measured this 30mm block and it's come up with 29.994. So let's change the probe to one of these glass ones, and I won't bother taking the wobble out because I don't need to, because if it's crooked, because we're only looking in one direction, it'll take out the crookedness. What you add on one side you remove on the other. So let me change that and we'll see what we come up with. The original ball in the original probe was 6mm. This one is 0.344 inches, or 8.5mm roughly. So let's see what measurement we come up with that. Let me press the button and see what happens. So 32.74. The difference between the balls is 2.78, so 32.74 minus 2.78 comes out at 30.014. So I think we'd buy that, wouldn't we? Accurate enough. What we're going to do is move the table 50mm that way, straight into that probe. So we should break it. Let's see what happens. Or it'll skip sideways. It's going to do that, isn't it? Damn it. Back to where we are. G0x50. We should hopefully rapid the table that way as fast as this machine is set up to move, and we should break that probe. So let's let me hit return and we'll give it a go. Oh, there you go. I think tiny little bit, I don't know if you can see that, but tiny little bit of glass that's loose. The ball fell off, but that's not the end of the world. But I did think it would break at the top here because that's where the maximum leverage is. But to be perfectly honest, I'd call that a success. Just for completeness, this is another probe without any heat shrink tubing around it, so the glass is going to fly, I suspect. So let me just take this off. Just put this one in. Whoops. Give him a little tighten up. And let's repeat that experiment. G0x50. And here we go. I'll hit return and we'll break this one. Oh. That was good. That was very good. So bits have flown all over the place, so I've got to clean this mill out now. One more failure mode I forgot to do. This is another probe, and I'm going to run it straight into the vise. So let me do that. That will be G0 Z minus, shall we go 3 centimeters, 30 millimeters? No, let's go 25. So here we go, hit return and break the probe. Wow. Wow. G0Z, let's go 40 mil up. Oh! This is a bit less successful. The probe still works absolutely fine. There's some glass debris that's fallen out, but this tube is cracked up to around here that you probably can't see very well. But I think that's not too bad. It's broken the probe, but it hasn't broken the touch. Sorry, it's broken the stylus, but it hasn't broken the probe. That's the main thing. So let's rendezvous at the bench. Here are the remains of the probes. This one was a side swipe with heat shrink round the glass to contain the bits, which it did really well. This is a control test with just a glass tube, nothing in it, and the side swipe and the glass, as you saw, just flew. And this is a compression test with heat shrink on it. I was going to do another compression test with this one, but after glass flew on this one, I thought maybe I won't do that because it's just going to come out everywhere. So this will be dismantled and rebuilt with some heat shrink on it. Thanks for watching. If you've got this far, I reckon that's been a really fascinating experiment to do. These little probes are definitely up to the job. You saw that it made the measurement and the ball didn't fall off or it smashed. So in normal use, I don't think you'll have a problem using them. Probably better to make a better job of making them than I did. But and the other thing I would suggest is getting a smaller diameter heat shrink. The heat shrink I used was just too big. I did have some other heat shrink and I made a nice red one. This is about the right sort of size, but I didn't make a very good job of gluing the ball on. But having said that, that's good. So I think on the whole it's worth doing. You're going to ask me, because I know you are, how much do they cost? Bearing in mind that a single professional probe is around the $40 mark. I've made, also bearing in mind that the balls have come out of scrap bearings, buggered bariums, and the ferrules are old printer shaft, so basically they're a scrap bin material. I had to buy the heat shrink because I didn't have any on hand of the right size, and I did have some glue, some araldite or epoxy resin, and I had to buy the glass tube. So I reckon, in all honesty, they probably cost me around the 50 cents or 50 pence each without my time, including the materials. So that's got to be a fairly significant saving. And if you make like a 10 or 12, 15 of them at a time, then all you need to do is repeat a previous experiment that I did and make sure you measure the length of them. And what I'm going to do is make a whole load more of them, put them in little plastic bags with a little sticker on the front saying what the effective diameter of the ball is and what the overall length is, so that all I need to do whenever I break one is just take a new one out of the packet, put it in the probe, enter the data into the probe software, and Bob's your auntie. Brilliant. Thanks for watching. It's been really interesting to do that. I've thoroughly enjoyed making those. Do hit the bell and subscribe spanner and pass this video on, because there's bound to be plenty of people out there who'd like to make these, and it's not difficult. So thanks again. Take care. Look after yourselves. See you on the next one.